9, 8.
You're watching Experience Comic Culture and Sales. Streaming live daily to Facebook, YouTube, Twitch, and Twitter.
2, 1.
Imagine being at a convention.
Hey everyone, I know you're not used to seeing me. It's not Tuesday. Nick isn't here right now. He will be here in about 45 minutes. But until then, I have the absolute pleasure and honor to talking to two folks that I am huge fans of. Shamefully, one of them wasn't until they started writing for a certain, Dangerous Duck. And the other one from their art that's so beautiful in a book that traumatizes animal lovers everywhere. So we're going to be talking to the two of them. Hopefully you stick around. If you have any questions at all, this is an interactive show. Please, by all means, drop those into the comments and we'll get to them. But please, this is going to be exciting, y'all. This is so exciting. I'm very nervous, but excited. Please help me welcome Amanda Diebert and Trish Forstner. I think Kyle is here. How we doing today?
Hey, how you doing? Doing all right.
Good. Thought Kyle was here. But so I just have a couple of questions here. This is going to be me listening to y'all talk more than anything. Super excited, like really. So the first thing I got to ask is, what are your comic book origins? Like, what got you into this business?
Do you want to go first?
You can go for it. Go for it, Trish.
Your history might be longer than mine. Well, okay, so I started in comics, collecting, because my brain and my art style have always been more animation focused, very cartoon heavy. So I bought a lot of comics like Looney Tunes, Tiny Toons, Alvin and the Chipmunks comics back in the day, Care Bears, whatever was out there that was like a figure that I knew. So like Darkwing Duck was some of those first comics that I had. The early like Gargoyles, Lion King, all of those books were like some of my first purchases with my own money. Me tootling in there after school or whatever, buying my Darkwing Duck. But when I got into comics, it was much later. It was like maybe 2016. I was doing artwork for BronyCon, which is a My Little Pony convention in Baltimore. It used to happen. It doesn't happen anymore, but 2019 was the last one. But 2016, I was doing artwork for them. I had a table there. Tony Fleece, another guy who worked on My Little Pony, he came by my table, picked up a book that I had, which is just a sketchbook. Had some of my early stuff in it, and he took it. And then he came back later and pitched to me Stray Dogs. And he goes, "Do you want to do it?" I'm like, I ain't never done a panel in my life. Here we go. Yay. But while I was doing that, I was also doing covers for My Little Pony, which was really cool. That was really like my first published pieces. So I thought, stick to what I know. Cartoon animals are like my jam. So give me Darkwing Duck, give me Gargoyles. They're not animals per se, but cartoonish. Gargoyles. Awesome. So I was doing all of that at the same time. And it was just, here I am, today working on my second indie book with Tony Fleece, which is Feral. And issue 4 just came out.
That's awesome. For me, I also grew up loving to read comics as a little girl. My treat if I behaved well at the grocery store was that I got to pick out a new Archie digest because, they would sell them up front by the checkout. And so my mom would let me get some Archie. So that was my gateway drug into comics. And then I was a smart teenager, and it wasn't because of this, but I was best friends with the girl whose stepfather owned the local comic book store, which meant that we got to like hang out there all the time and after hours, and so it was like a lot of reading comics and for free, which was great.
Never miss the opportunity. Do it if you can.
So that was really good. And then I was a TV writer, and then I started dating a comic book illustrator who's now my wife, Kat Staggs, and we started doing this web comic together. And it was basically just an online comic strip that was embarrassing stories from my life. And so it would be like these real stories, like a time I went hiking and tried to go to the bathroom like off the trail, and then people started to come, and so I backed up and fell off a cliff with my pants around my ankles, like just like very relatable stories like that we've all
don't do that once in your life. You've not lived.
Like we've all been there. And so that's where I started. And then I was also doing like comedy videos for like there was like this female comedy website that the webcomic was on, and I was doing YouTube videos for them as well. And I did one, I was orphaned when I was young, and I did one that was kind of a joke about dealing with Father's Day and being an orphan. And like through the video, without ever mentioning it, I slowly morphed into Batman, like throughout the course of the video, from going and going. And apparently that went around the DC offices. Like they all thought it was like this really funny dark humor thing. And then one of the editors reached out to me and had seen, my web comics and like a couple anthologies I had submitted for and stuff, and was like, "Hey, I've seen your web comics. Thought your video was really funny. Would you like to write a Wonder Woman story?" And I was like, "Oh."
You were like, "Where do I sign papers?"
Right. I was like, "This will be fine. It's only like the most iconic female superhero of all time to like start my professional career.
Yeah.
What could go wrong, right?
What could
No
go
pressure.
wrong?
Very chill." But the good news is that they kept hiring me after that, so I guess I didn't mess it up.
Girl, pressure. Like, when you get to play in a sandbox that you've either A, always wanted to play in, or B, like, it's such a huge, like, widely iconic character. It's so daunting.
Yeah.
Well, I can't imagine what you were going through. I was stressing with Darkwing Duck, but because I know there are hardcore Duck fans, you don't want to disappoint the Duck people.
So I've learned of all, like, I've done a lot of, like, things that people like, like Wonder Woman, like Star Wars. So I thought I understood, large fan bases. And then when I started writing Darkwing Duck, I was like, oh, wow. Because the reaction was so much bigger than literally anything else I've ever worked on. I was not... I like that you were prepared for the Duck fandom. I was not. I did not have any idea how hardcore Darkwing Duck fans were until I was.
Oh, you know how I prepared for that? I watched the reaction of the Duck fandom to the 2017 reboot of the DuckTales franchise. Because most people, that enjoy entertainment, loved it. Thought it was great. A lot of the Duck folk were mixed. And it's just... you want to make them happy, and then there are certain artists that won't draw that style because that's not the style, right. Or, like that's not the one they knew. And I'm like, I get it. We all have our likes. Like Alvin and the Chipmunks, to me, would never be the little rodent looking guys. It would be like Alvin and the Chipmunks from the 80s.
Right, right.
So like, they look like toddlers. I'd rather have that. They're much less scary for some reason than actual chipmunks. So, But anyway, yeah, I get it. Like, I'm glad though that like what I've read, because I read all of them, and they're great. You do a good job. So like people can't really, they can't really complain.
The response has been good, which I was nervous. I was really nervous, and the response has been good. So I feel, because like to me, the thing was I just wanted the fans of the character to love it, because that's the whole point, right? It's like I wanted people that love Darkwing Duck to love this, and so hopefully.
Oh, right. I mean, well, it's such like, a nostalgia, warm fuzzy for everyone. And plus it has a history. So you want to pay homage to the history. But at the same time, make it its own thing, do your own thing with it, because it's gone through, like, Darkwing Duck's gone through a lot of, iteration over time. But to me, I mean, it never gets better than, Just Us Justice Ducks. That is an episode I almost can, like, I can hear it in the background. I'm like, oh, I know what episode that is. You know what I mean? Like, Stagmite, I love him.
It's great.
He's such a big doof. And I love all the characters. And so when I try to draw them and pay them respect, I like to draw them. I mean, because I don't even put my own style into it, at least not as much.
Right.
Because of, I'm trying to pay homage to what they are, the cartoon. Except for Negaduck. I was mean to him on a couple of covers, poor guy.
So, because I'm literally just a comic fan, I know nothing about what happens behind the comic scenes. When you write a book and they tell you, hey, we're going to get some cover artists, do you get to choose any of them or send any kind of like your own suggestions on who does the cover art?
I didn't get to for Darkwing Duck, and I didn't even know ever, because there were so many that I never, like, some were real surprises. Like, there's still times that I'm at a convention because there were so many that someone will come up with a cover that I have never seen, because I've seen a lot of them, obviously, but every once in a while somebody will come up and I'm like, oh my God, this is amazing. I didn't even see this one. I knew that they asked Kat to do some because we're married and we live in the same house, so I heard about it and watched her draw them. But that was really it. Other than that, it was me seeing them, like, when they came out with the press releases or in the handful of comps that I got. They would give me like a variety of them, but certainly not all of them. And so then I would get to see some, and then otherwise it's like seeing them in the wild in comic book stores or at conventions, which is cool.
Oh, I love seeing them in the wild. I'm like, oh, you still have this one? Like, I'll go through the back of the, to the back of the issue. They'll have the little cover gallery back there. And I'm like, oh, I don't have that one. I don't collect all of them, but like, there are certain artists that you follow through, through the different series, and having done a bunch of these now, it's like, I can't wait for the next one to come. Hopefully I get to do more. Knock on wood. But yeah, the Darkwing ones are my faves. I only actually, because I draw a lot digitally, just because of the way that I work normally with like Feral and Stray Dogs. It was so easy to just draw on the tablet. But I did a couple of covers traditionally, like printed that, like did the sketch digitally, printed them out and like line arted them, like with a real pen. Like, I'm like, oh, a real pen. Let me just sit here, squinch my eyes up. But I did one that was like a Secret Wars 8 homage for a shop that was an exclusive for them for Darkwing #1. It was so rad. Like, that art is buried over here. Unfortunately, I can't pull it out, but it's on 11x17 comic board. It's beautiful. Darkwing's in that like black Spidey suit pose, and the Justice Ducks are fighting behind him.
That's awesome. So see, and that's kind of crazy to me, because it's kind of like, Amanda, did you not know Trish had done a cover? Did they tell you?
No,
that,
I know.
or?
I have seen. I did know that Trish has done covers, but but
Pat Stone said something nice about one of my covers. I was like, oh, that's it. I can leave now.
Yeah, no, they're lovely, but I am sure that there are still covers that I haven't seen, especially when you get into like exclusives for certain comic shops. And
yeah, the one for Bird City Comics that I did, that was the one that I was talking about, the Secret Wars 8, because they were real clear when they said, like, yeah, can you do covers for us? No homages. But I'm like, literally, there's like a million homages in these lines. What are you doing? Are you telling me?
Yeah, there were a lot, like in general.
Mine were like, so mine were like episodic. So I treated each cover like its own kind of episode title screen. Like, you know how like the cartoon would have like a title page, or a title art. So I kind of treated it like that. So he would give me a little synopsis of what the story was, or what the episode was for that book, and I just kind of treated each one like its own little episode. And so it makes it more satisfying to like see it all in print and see it all come together. Like, how do you feel when you get a whole book with, back with the artwork to all of the words that you wrote.
Oh, it's amazing. I mean, it's amazing. You see little bits and pieces of things along the way, but when you see it all together, like the way it's supposed to be, there's nothing like it. There's nothing like getting that book and holding it or seeing it. I still get really excited when I see my stuff in comic book stores or bookstores or whatever. I see something on a shelf that you made. It's such a rush.
For a second.
Like, oh my God, I'm on the shelf. That's crazy.
Yeah. I go into Barnes and Noble. They have their one little copy of Stray Dogs trade paperback sitting there, and I'm like, I had that book. I know you. I know her. She's great. It's so cool seeing it in the wild.
Yeah. There are times that people that watch the Tuesday review show that I'm on, they know if there's going to be a Darkwing book, it's getting picked. I'm reading it. I'm reviewing it. And they also know if there is a Trish Forstner cover anywhere for any book, that's the cover I'm using. We're not going to do the A cover if there's a Trish cover.
Well, I like that endorsement. That is so great.
So let me ask you something, Trish. As an artist, how do you go about choosing the books that you do? Like, is there a vetting process?
Mostly, I'll just take whatever most people bring to me. I'm pretty fortunate in that I don't do this as a full-time job. I kind of do it, I guess it is a full-time job. It's more of a second full-time job. But when I get approached, mostly it's me hounding somebody until they give me something to do. And then I just keep staying on them. When I finish what I'm doing, I'm like, oh, more please. But that well's run dry. If you know people, hook me up. But I'll draw anything, or I'll try. I don't have the best style for humans or people, but if it's an animal character or a cartoon, I'm your lady, because that's where I lived.
I see. That's so crazy to me hearing you say that. I would imagine it must be just the fanboy in me. I would imagine people are just chasing you down for their covers, and a man is getting chased down to write for new books.
I really there are sandboxes that Dynamite has a bunch of the Disney titles, and I'm like, we did that whole 12 issue, what was it, 12 issues of Gargoyles. So the last 4 that we did were this big connecting panorama thing, and I didn't want to go that route at the end. That was more of a Tony thing. He called that, but we were collaborators on that, Tony and I mean, but I still drew all the characters. I drew all it, and I'm a stickler for making them on model. So if it's someone else's sandbox, I stick to their rules. That's another reason why I it's pros and cons for indie work, because Feral and Stray Dogs, I can do what I want. Nobody has to, nobody can tell me what to do. I created them, so I tell them, and that's another thing that's weird, because I've had to hire out cover artists, and to tell them what to do with my characters is so weird. That's my child. Don't take care of it. Please don't hurt him, or please don't, butcher this drawing of him. But I also love other people's styles, and I love to see my stuff in their style. Scotty Young did a cover for me for Stray Dogs, and I about turned over a table because I thought Scotty Young drew something that I created. That's it.
Yeah.
But yeah, and there are plenty of sandboxes that Dynamite has that I want to play in, but I'll just keep digging. Just keep digging.
Yeah. I'm gonna have to co-sign off one of the comments. TJ James, we need you to do a Bandit cover for Johnny
I would
Quest.
too. Johnny Quest was my jam. I love Bandit. Well, such a cute little rascal.
Now, I got to ask the both of you. With the Darkwing Duck Kickstarter going on right now, it's got 11 days. We'll link it somewhere in the comments here in a second.
I backed it.
How does it feel to be part of that legacy?
Oh, it's iconic to me. I mean, I grew up every day watching Darkwing Duck on TV. Are you kidding me? And then I always wanted to be an artist for Disney. This is kind of a roundabout way of me doing that, because, they eliminated all of their an animation department and stuff in the States, you know, their hand-drawn animation went away. So like I was like, oh no, my dream has evaporated. What can I do? So now it's like illustration. And then it again started real slow, but I kept at it. And bam, here we are. Living in 2024, me creating something original for Darkwing Duck. Like, that is so cool. and apparently, you can get rewards in the Kickstarter that I draw. So, you know, that's cool. I didn't even know I was doing that, but you know.
Yeah, I mean, it's awesome. It's really cool to be a part of a legacy. It's really cool to be part of a passionate fandom. Like there's just something about it that's it's nice to feel like you're making your mark on something, that you get to do something that people are enjoying what you do. So it's super
when folks show up at a con with like a book that you did that's like super obscure, does it blow your mind?
Yes.
Like it does me. Like when people show up with the like free comic book day that didn't happen issue of My Little Pony that I did, I literally get floored whenever they show up with it, because that's the free comic book day that didn't happen because of COVID.
Yeah, I had a Batman and Harley Quinn comic that went with the animated show that was like part of a Blu-ray, and so it's like this big. It's like one of those little like teeny tiny, and so like sometimes people will pull those out, and I'm like, how did you, I mean, I have like one, you know what I mean? But I'm like,
sorcerer, where did you get this?
Where did it even come from? It's so obscure, but they, you know, occasionally they show up and they're like, sign this. I'm like, holy crap.
I love it when people show up with weird stuff. Like, I think the weirdest thing I think I've ever signed at a con was somebody's cosplay prop that they made.
Oh, that's cool.
Like it was a My Little Pony cosplay, but they made a giant, something figure that went with their cosplay. I was like, I'll sign it. So that was like kind of the strangest thing to sign. But everything else, when they show up with that free comic book day, I'm like, oh, somebody cared enough to pick that book up. So I don't have any of it. I think I might have 2.
So Trish, what came first, the love of Disney or the love of art?
Okay, so I always was drawing ever since, you know, I could hold a pencil. I was always drawing something. It didn't matter what it was. I did a stint with realism, which I hated. I did a stint with, you know, buildings and architecture, which I hated. And I finally settled on like cartoons because it's just so much more fun. Be loose and whatever with your style. So I was always drawing cartoons. I mean, and then where it kind of goes from there, I never really did any like education or anything into movies. My love for Disney was always, you know, the Disney Renaissance movies, Don Bluth movies. Animation was more my passion. So like Don Bluth is more my speed. Dark, gritty. The animation was kind of dirty, but also really clean. And the stories were darker. They had, I mean, look, watch All Dogs Go to Heaven and tell me you don't cry at the end. Like, you know, and have epiphanies about what heaven and hell are. And, you know, watch a dog get murdered twice in a movie. Like, geez.
Too much.
Too much. But my obsession with animation came first. Then it kind of splits. And then in 1994, when The Lion King came out, my entire life changed. That movie changed the direction of my entire art style. So then that's the way I went. And then I kind of think that I'm like an amalgamation of like the best of Disney, Warner Brothers, Bluth, Amblin, whatever animation companies are out there.
So, Amanda, you've written for DC, Marvel, Dynamite. Is there any other companies that you've done that I'm missing?
You said I did DC, Marvel, Dynamite. I've done Storm King comics. I do horror comics for them. And Dark Horse, and that might be everybody, but I also might be forgetting something really obvious. Not sure.
You have a great like body of work to draw from.
Oh, there we go. David's reminding everyone that I'm doing his image comic. I have a short story in that one.
Then you can check image off of the list. Boop, 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 down the checkbox of publishers.
But yeah, no, yeah, I've done a little smattering of a lot of people, a lot of places. It's fun.
I think it's the same for me, except for the life, I don't know people at Marvel and I don't know people at DC, but I want to draw a Bite Wing cover and I want to draw some dogs or something for Marvel. I know they got animal Avengers.
My way into Marvel was via Scholastic because I did a He-Man comic for Scholastic first because I was on the He-Man. I wrote on the He-Man animated show, and then I did the He-Man graphic novel, and then they were like, "Do you want to do a Rocket and Groot?" And so that's how that was my.
Rocket and Groot, the Scotty Young Rocket and Groot, or Rocket Raccoon. Man, I thought if I had to pick an artist whose art I admire so much that it made me do comics, it's Scotty. His artwork made me think that me as a cartoonist, me as a person who doesn't draw traditionally buff superhero characters, can do comics. So, it's so cool to be in that same kind of room with people that either write books for Marvel or draw them. It's so cool I still think of myself as an outsider because, I've not been in it as long as everybody else, but it's still cool.
I don't know if the imposter syndrome thing ever goes away, or it hasn't for me anyway.
No. I'm just I can't believe it when they ask me to do things. I'm like,
I know. It's like when people ask me to be on panels, I'm like, what am I going to say?
Can I derail us for 1 second about my first SDCC panel?
Yes.
So my first SDCC panel, I was on a panel with several highly acclaimed horror book writers, Scott Snyder, the gentleman from Philadelphia, and then there was a third guy. My brain just blanked. But anyway, these writers all going back and forth about how stories, the pathos, the drama, what personal connections they have. And then they all look at me and I'm like, I draw cute animals. I don't know what's wrong with y'all. Are you okay? Are you guys okay? And then everybody laughed and I was like, oh, good, go away. Because I'm not good in front of a huge room, and there was a lot of people in there. I've never talked as a professional to people in the comic space before. It was so neat, but also very sweaty for me.
Well, I can tell you both. You both definitely belong in this realm. Y'all have both done amazing things. I tell people a perk of my job, sitting behind the scenes, is I get to sit here when we're talking to legends like Rodney Barnes, who does Philadelphia.
Rodney Barnes.
Yeah.
Why was his name escaping me? He's such a sweet man.
Yeah. Jim Starlin, Dan Jurgens, and all this. But then there's times like this where I feel like I'm talking to the future, because without folks like y'all, we're not going to continue this. Amanda does a great job with bringing in younger readers with her other books that I've seen. And Trisha's art, when she's not traumatizing folks with cute animals, can bring in the younger audience too. So the two of you, I guess it's just me, because I have the same feeling about being an imposter. I'm a behind the scenes person. I'm not an interviewer or anything like that. But I can tell you both, as a fan, you both definitely belong in this space, and we're all happy to have you.
Aw, thank you. Aw. Well, okay, so where was I going with that? I was going somewhere.
I derailed the derailment.
No. When I feel like I don't belong the most is when there's a group of people who've been in it a long time standing around shooting the crap back and forth, XYZ editor, this person's doing that, and I'm like, I don't know any of these people. I don't know how people network. I'm just I draw cute animals. Can I draw cute animals? I do contribute to the writing of Feral sometimes. There are some story elements I put in there. But what I like about what we do now as artists and writers, we are writing in a space that we had as kids, writing what we should have had as kids. you know? Like that was what was appropriate for kids back then. What's appropriate for, us now or kids now is much different than how we were. I think the latchkey kids, we were on our own most of the time. Darkwing Duck had a gas gun. I don't think, and now I can't use a gas gun on the cover. No, no, no. Can't do it. So I think that's kind of cool, but kind of not cool because that was like his accessory, but also cool because you got to be more imaginative. Like who all didn't, who all would draw him on a bike, who all would draw him, either on the in the Thunderquack or like I like my first cover for Darkwing Duck with Morgana and Launchpad and the spiders. Yeah, that one was cool because it felt more like it came out of the show. And he told me what the episode was or what the issue was about. And I didn't have any character designs to go off of for the spider creatures, so I just made some up. And I was like, yeah, it's probably okay. It came out fine. And I couldn't dream of doing this or doing anything else but this. It's so cool.
Nice. So how hard is it to get a word in edgewise between Tone and Tony?
They're never in the same place at the same time when I'm talking to either of them, so it's great. Yeah, I'll tell you this, at SDCC this year, it'll be the first time Tony, and I have been in the same room, period. Like, we're going to be in the same space. We're going to do a signing together for the first time as Tony, and me. I'm going to change my name to Tony with an I just so I can fit in. Tone.
So outside of Scotty Young, who you've already said, for both of you really, who are the biggest influences in your professional and personal lives?
Do you want to go first?
I mean, that's so hard because then it becomes kind of an endless list.
I kind of went down the list of all of my, my influences. But those influences, too, are also personal connections because, I actually got good feedback on character design stuff I did with Don Bluth. That was freaking amazing. And it helped me so much just learning how he does things or how his animation style is or what he looks for in character design, good dynamic poses, good, weight, stuff like that. And so it taught me a lot. I owe a lot to him, but the greats, the animation greats, the 7 grumpy old men or whatever from Disney, fantastic resources. A lot of my stuff and influence comes self-taught. I have a lot of peers now that I admire and who I consider, when I give them, here, look at this drawing, does it read right? Or this whole scene looks kind of crazy. What can I change or whatever? Tony is also a good sounding board for that sort of thing. I find that I text him best at 3 a.m. 3 a.m. my time. So it's it's only midnight for him. So yeah, I mean, my influences are great and many. And, I hope, that people look at me as an influence too sometimes. Not that I feel that way. But, it's really cool to impact people, especially when they come up to you at a show and they tell you their kid just started reading comics because of, they saw your art, or their wife got into comics because, you made a book about dogs. But then, they got further in and they were like, oh God, these people are monsters. It's wild.
Well, I mean, that's the thing. There's the influence. I grew up, I was a voracious reader. So there's the influences I grew up reading, the people I was big fans of. And then there's also, I think we often think about influences as past tense, but I think it's a constant thing, right? You read something new, you see something, and you're like, holy shit, that's so cool. Wow, they did that. And it's your creative brain just expands and you're like, oh, this is so fun. I'm getting to work in this world and they created this and now we're playing with this. And I feel like I'm I feel like I'm constantly learning and redefining what like comics can be, what good storytelling is with comics, and even with with media that I consume in other ways. With shows that I'm watching that do cool things, or movies. I mean, I feel like it's actually pretty expansive. When I was first starting in that same Wonder Woman situation, I was a big fan of Gail Simone, who I had never met at the time. And then that Wonder Woman story that they asked me to do, they put it as, it was a Sensation Comics featuring Wonder Woman, and they put it as number one with the story that I wrote and then a story that Gail wrote. And they were together. And I was like, this is too much. I'm too nervous. I'm going to die, because that was definitely one of those, like, you're a fan of somebody, they're a big influence on you, and now, oh, we're going to put our work together. And like, I could not.
Anthology style, my favorite.
Yeah.
And by favorite, it's like you get paired up with somebody who's like just an icon for, a certain genre of like comics. That's wild.
Yeah.
I'm glad though that it.
The art was my wife. Like my wife and I got to work on that one together, which was cool. But then, yeah, it was like story by me, story by Gail, and I was like, what? So super cool about it. Super chill. Didn't faze me at all.
Nope. Cool as a cucumber.
Yeah.
Sounds like me. Whenever I meet somebody who's did a cover for me, or like if I've got a book that I want somebody to sign, I'm just like, don't look at my face. I get the crazy eyes.
Mm-hmm.
I'm as much a fan of the people that do the business as I am of being in the business. So
yeah.
we wear our fandoms on our sleeves.
Yes, we do.
So is there a character that's like your dream character? I don't know if it's Wonder Woman for you, but if there was somebody else, is there a dream character you would love to write for? And is there one you'd like to draw, Trish?
I mean, there's a lot. There's one that I can't talk about yet that I'm really excited that I just finished writing a story for, because it's a favorite of my daughter's, and so I was really excited to get to do that, and she's really excited that I'm doing it. I think some other ones that I would love to do, I grew up as a hardcore Storm fan, so I would love to write anything with Storm in it, even if she just is like in one panel for 1 second, and then
she just comes by.
She just hangs up and leaves.
She just zaps on like a light.
It's just like a little tornado or something, and then she's gone. It's fine.
I'll clean that up.
And then
one page.
I'd love to do Moon Girl, because my daughter is also Moon Girl obsessed.
Moon Girl is so cute. I love that show and the comic.
So
great.
Hopefully one day.
Animation for that show is so good.
Oh my god, I love it. It's beautiful.
It's one of my favorite art styles. Like now, modern art styles, I guess.
Agreed.
But like, if I could do anything, let's see, I'm trying to think. Like I was just thinking about this the other night. Like I don't necessarily have like a bucket list character that I need to do, but like I want to do something for Marvel. Like I want to do something for DC. Like I want to do something for the big guys, just to, say I did it, say I made it there. But I mean, like, kind of what's your idea of making it? I mean, I am out here putting out a book every month, and, or doing a million covers, at a time. So, I mean, that is the business.
Mm-hmm.
And that's great. Like, I'm happy to just do that. So, I mean, bucket list characters wise, though, let's see. I mean, anything from the nostalgia area for me. Anybody in that nostalgia area, I'm happy to try. Like Batman, Nightwing, I don't care. I'll take anybody. I'll try. Yeah, Underdog. Sweet. I did an Underdog sketch cover for somebody at some point. He was so cute. Greatest American hero, but in dog form.
Love it.
So, hypothetical here. Let's just say Dynamite gets your dream Disney license to work on, what is that to you? What is the one Disney thing that you would
I
above
already did it.
anything else? I think you've already said yours, Trish. Maybe.
I already did it.
Oh,
It's Scar.
Scar. Okay.
Scar is my all-time favorite Disney bad guy. He committed the first on-screen Disney murder in history by throwing those claws. I was like, damn, that's a baller move, dude. So, obviously top spot for villain of my lifetime. Plus, he was voiced by Jeremy Irons and Jim Cummings at the same time. Two of my all-time favorite voices to hear. So, and he's got a pretty banging villain song. So,
That's true.
he's cool. So, yeah, if anything Lion King related, I'll do it. That's my favorite area of Disney. But, even like the newer stuff that they have, or the newer Disney stuff like Turning Red or the Princesses, anything in that area. Heck, if they ever did like a Wreck-It Ralph thing, I'd be like over the moon.
That would be amazing.
Wreck-It Ralph is such a cool movie.
Yes.
Love it.
Not the Breaks the Internet one, but the other one was good.
We threw my daughter, when that movie came out, we threw my daughter a Wreck-It Ralph themed birthday party, and I went really hard with like making stuff.
Oh, that's so cool.
Like just went bananas, like made a whole racetrack with like the fake candy people on the side. Like, yeah, love it.
Aww. That's so cool though. See, that's why I like fandoms too, because you can have a lot of fun in properties that already exist. And universes that are already built, expanding upon them. It's so great. But if I could work on anything, probably a Wreck-It Ralph or another Lion King property, or anything in the Disney Renaissance area of animation, like, that was my jam. Or Lilo and Stitch, obviously.
Oh, Lilo and Stitch is great. I kind of already did it too. If we count Star Wars as being part of Disney now, since they're married together, like getting to do Star Wars comics was pretty. It was pretty bucket listy for me.
I think that's a bucket list for a lot of people. Tony said that he did his first Star Wars covers for IDW, and those were like some of his like funnest projects. Or most fun.
It's daunting because it's a big universe.
And if you get it wrong, man, people will eviscerate you.
Well, the good thing is they have such like a good team to help you not get it wrong. Like that was the thing I really liked about writing for them. It was that like I would get these notes on my script that was like, well, actually the best spacecraft for this particular character in this particular time would be if they're in this kind of ship. And you're like, okay, well then they're in this kind of ship. Because it would be like so intensely researched that it would, well beyond the knowledge of, your regular anybody, because that's what they're doing. And you're like, okay.
Well, that character would never be in an X-Wing.
Exactly.
Okay, I'm so sorry.
But okay.
I'm so sorry. Please forgive me.
But I was glad. I was like, please save me from embarrassing myself by not knowing that this character would never be in that ship.
But you're thinking like big, like Star Wars is huge and daunting, right? Because it's got book universe, it's got different games, video game universe, then it's got animation in all kinds of its levels, and then all of the 9 movies.
Yep.
And so, I mean, there's so much that you could get wrong. And the same thing goes for the artwork too, because if you're portraying a character in a style that isn't, the style that character was known to be in, get back.
Yeah.
Get back, because you'll hear about it.
Got 2 questions. The first one I'm pretty sure I know the answer to, but I'm going to ask it anyway. Would Trish do a Rescuers comic?
Of course. Anything with rescue in the title. We got Rescue Rangers. We got Rescuers down. We got Rescuers Down Under. Of course I would.
And
Bianca and Bernard, my favorite.
Yeah, and for both of you, what makes a project fun versus project being work, the not fun kind?
Oof. When the sandbox gets too small. And I'll explain that as in the early days of me doing My Little Pony, for instance, the editors were much looser with what we could get away with in the artwork. We could put references, we could hide celebrities' ponies in there. We could make all kinds of cool references to stuff, and draw the ponies in our own styles. So like if you look at the pony comics throughout the time, you'll see each artist's particular style in there. Now they have to all look the same. And they don't, and they changed the rules of the universe that we knew, so that we were used to drawing. Okay, so say we had to draw one with clothes. Well, now they don't wear clothes, and you can't ever draw them wearing anything. Period. And I'm like, oh god, but they have cell phones. How does that work? So like, it's just that makes it a little unfun. It's the back and forth about like what they can do and what they can't do, and relearning the universe when they change the entire design guide. But
yeah, I was gonna say similarly. It's like the creative freedom is what makes it fun. Obviously you have to pay respect to the character, especially if it's not your IP, right? If it's somebody else's stuff, respectful to the characters, respectful to the property, and to like the rules of that world. But as long as you're given the freedom within those very broad confines, like then it's fun. If you get to play with it and really be like, what would I do with this universe, with these characters? And if the only notes are back, sometimes, it's like, oh, you can't use this character because we're using him over here in this other book or whatever. And like, that's fine. But when it does get, I think it's very much the same kind of thing. When it does get really, when you start getting like minutia notes and you start feeling like you can't play, you can't be creative, that becomes less fun, because then you're like, oh, I guess I'll just write what you tell me to write, which means I'm not really writing it.
My new favorite genre of like stuff in other IP, like working in IP, is anywhere in my drawing where they can find what looks like a human butt, because they will make me fix it. If it doesn't matter what it is, if it looks like a butt, I gotta fix it.
That's funny.
I've gotten notes on that from several different editors, which is hysterical. I'm like, well, do I really draw butts that much? Like, what the hell? And it could be like a pony leg, and the way it's kind of they're sitting, it just looks like a butt. And I'm like, who is looking at it like that? I don't understand.
So, Amanda, you also write television and movie scripts, or just television scripts?
Yeah, I mean, television predominantly, but I do it all. I do all the stuff.
Well, what do you prefer? Do you prefer that in front of the camera? Because I think I have seen a trailer of a movie you've been in.
So yeah, I used to act in my 20s. I did. I used to act, and then I always wrote as well. Like I was always writing. But then I kind of transitioned to writing full time, and that's where I've been pretty much since my daughter was born. And I'm very happy with that. I mean, sometimes I miss acting, but I prefer writing. I like the lifestyle, and I like the creative freedom. So
you wrote for TV.
Mm-hmm.
How is the writing for TV different from comics?
It's not a lot different, especially animation. They translate very easily one to the other. Mm-hmm. With TV, you're not going into like quite as much detail with the action. It might be like, it's one sentence that's like, she walks down the street and into the room, and as you know, like that would be a series of multiple panels, and like sits down, or like, when it's a whole fight scene or it's a whole whatever. So it's more sparse and more dialogue heavy, whereas obviously comics is a lot more visual and less dialogue heavy. And that's really the biggest difference, other than, and a lot of artists don't love when writers say this, but there's also the budget constraint situation of like when you're adding extra characters or extra complicated, effects or whatever, sometimes you can't because of budget.
But in comics, sprinkle it on, put it all in there.
But I'm like, there's 1,000 robots. And the artist is like, yeah, F you, there's 1,000 robots I have to draw. But so that part, like, there is actually more freedom in comics because I'm not having to think about like budget constraints.
That's happened to me before. Massive crowd shots. I mean, even in like I'll tell. For instance, Stray Dogs. There were 11 dogs in that book, and there were like half the book. 11 dogs are in every panel. So like I'm just like, oh, woof, quite literally. But as that book progresses, we lose a couple, so the crowd shots get a little tighter.
That book.
Silver linings for artists.
Now we know why the dogs do.
Yeah, I'm tired of drawing these freaking spots. Get this one out of here.
If you are a person that doesn't usually get emotional about comic books, I dare you to read Stray Dogs. And what is it? Issue
3. Issue number 3. I thought we were going to lose everyone then. Because I'm sitting there drawing it, and I'm like, this is my best drawing ever.
Oh.
And at the same time, I just tore out my own heart and threw it across the room.
Yes.
Like, it was, and then the pathos, like, right there. Because right ahead of it, the page before it, the way he begs and he puts his face on that master's leg. I was so mad. When I read that script, I told Tony, I was like, I'm going to get crucified. We're going to get killed. People are going to hate us. And they didn't. They were like, we do hate you, but also keep doing this. Like, this is awesome. Because in that miniseries, like, as a writer, you have to earn your kills. You have to earn what happens. So you have to build their trust and, know your reader's going to trust you through that process. And if they see, like, we had no stakes. They forget everything. So if they, if this didn't happen to trigger them to, keep running, it would have just gone. Like, it would have just lost interest. It was so well thought out and so dastardly. Oh, so me, after I drew it, I'm like, got a glass of wine. I'm like, oh God, shaking, drinking. It was so good though when it came out. Everybody nobody hated it. I've never heard a bad word about that issue other than F you, this happened. But it was great. Thank you. Thanks for doing that. Thanks for making me cry.
That's exactly how it went. My wife read it first and she's just bawling. And I'm like, what's wrong? And she's like, here, read this. And I read it and I'm just like,
someone's cutting onions in here.
Yes, and shoving them into my eyes. Like I was bawling.
Have you ever killed anybody there, Amanda, as a writer? Have you ever committed the...
Oh yeah. Well, I do. So I do horror comics with Storm King Comics.
Oh, okay.
And so I have like a serial killer thriller called Death Mask that I did. There's a lot of murders in that. And then every year I also do a story for the anthology John Carpenter's Tales for Halloween Night.
Oh, okay. I've heard of
usually someone dies in all of those too. So yeah, I've killed a lot of people. Have I killed an animal? I'm not sure if I've killed an animal. I've done some really messed up things and some really messed up kills, but I don't know if I've killed a dog.
I mean, we came out with like Stray Dogs. Like, Tony and I are both animal people. Like, we love animals. So like, to make people believe, like, understand that we're not murderers. Like, I don't go around murdering animals. We joined charity work. We did outreach. We have community where like all their proceeds for anything they sell on there goes to different animal charities, be it military animal charities or whatever, local animal charities. I'm just like, please don't crucify me. I love animals. I had a dog. I designed a dog that ends up in the book getting shot. So like, she lived though. She lived. But yeah, so I mean, like, we aren't afraid to take the risks that you do with that. And so now there's a whole niche of like animal horror books out, or animal scary time books that are out. Cute animals in trouble. That's our new niche. That's my niche. That's where I live.
So, just for anybody just joining, we do have the Dynamite has the Darkwing Duck Kickstarter going on, the 3 omnibuses, I believe. Could y'all just let them know what part y'all contributed to that?
Oh, sure. So I did a very recent Darkwing Duck run. So I wrote I think the 10-issue run that I wrote is in there, which I'm really excited about and proud of.
I did covers for all 10 of those issues. And also, you can contribute to the Kickstarter and get rewards drawn by me.
Absolutely.
And there's also like there's a reward tier that has all the number 1s from Darkwing Duck as a set, which was really cool if you didn't get all of them. Because it even had the blanks. I was like, hell yeah, I'm a blank hoarder. I just found a website today, a comic shop on their eBay store. They had all of the Dynamite Disney cover blanks for like cheap. So I was like, yes, load it in. I'm going to have like 50 of those things here soon.
That's awesome.
Awesome.
I'm a hoarder of them. It really is sickness. I'm not calling out for help though.
So everyone, if you have not checked it out yet, we'll drop the link in there later. Go check out the Kickstarter. Get the beautiful, beautiful art of Trish and the amazing Should Be Episodes story by Amanda.
I'd watch that.
Both these folks are just amazing. I've had just a fanboy like time here. We're kind of gonna wrap it up.
Join the party. Head over to our link tree to find all the links for everywhere the experience is all the time.